Hello everyone, my name's Lauren and welcome to another video from the Tiny Menagerie. Most small fish look as harmless as they are, but there are a few that appear to have ideas way above their tiny stature, and these certainly have more of an edge to them. These are five-banded barbs, a not so well-known member of the barb family, who, as their name suggests, are easily identified by the 5 vertical stripes running down their bodies. But while they do look a little bit mean, what are 5 bands like to keep and what kind of setup do they need? Well, 5 bands hail from quite a wide area spanning right across Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, all the way up to Thailand. There they inhabit peatlands and swamps, which are often densely vegetated with all sorts of aquatic and submerged grasses. And so you can see how these lovely stripes would be the perfect camouflage in that sort of environment. This being the case, they do like quite a bit of variation in their tank, as they like to use both densely vegetated areas, but like to come out in the open as well to swim around and have a feed. They also prefer the tank to be on the darker side, as in very brightly lit situations on a pale substrate for example, will cause their colours to wash out as they try to match their surroundings, as a lot of fish do as part of their camouflage strategy. And so on a darker substrate they will show much more coloration, and their dark stripes have this beautiful green iridescence along each of the edges of the scales. And 5-banded barbs do have a lovely coloration, although it can take quite a while for it to develop. Baby 5 bands often look a bit anemic, they're quite pale when you first purchase them, but as they come to maturity at about 6 months of age, their colour will deepen and take on this lovely burnt orange hue to it. Although it is worth pointing out that males do show more colour than females do, and they're more likely to have colouring in their fins as well. Another thing to really note about these little fishes is how they have such differing personalities between them. Some of mine are very shy and they like to stay close to the plants at all times, and then they'll quickly dart out from the shadows every now and again when they spot food going by. Meanwhile, others are perfectly brave. They are quite happily schooling around in the open with the other fish, and so it is a little bit of a chance that you take on them. Even in large numbers, it's really hard to predict which ones are going to be shy and which ones are going to be braver. Although they do seem to show more confidence when they've got something in the area that they can hide behind. It doesn't necessarily have to be live plants, it can be wood, rocks, even bits of decoration. It can be anything as long as they have somewhere where they can get out of sight, then conversely, they will spend more of their time out in the open. Just so long as that tank is comfortable that they're in though, then 5 bands are active and keen explorers who will make use of the lower and middle sections of the tank. Here you will see them often nipping in and out of cover as they search for food, or prey, as 5 bands do live up to that slightly mean appearance that they have, and they are definitely very active hunters and they will pursue anything in the tank that they think they can eat, which includes fry and sadly shrimps. Adult shrimp will be fine, but juveniles up to about 1 centimetre in length are going to get picked off by the 5 bands if they can find them. And as 5 bands need to be kept in a school with at least 6 fish, then together they will scour the entire tank on the lookout for a tasty crustacean morsel. And so if you already have a shrimp colony in your tank, then it is not a good idea to add some 5 bands to it. Luckily 5 bands don't grow very large, and even a full-grown female is only going to be about 5 centimetres in length, and even then, because they're such a slimline species, a group of them in the tank feel like they take up no space at all. Even so, as they are a very active species, you are going to want to give them a tank with at least 80 by 30 centimetre base dimensions, and then keep that at between 22 and 28 degrees. Being from peatlands and swamps, they do also prefer a slightly more acidic pH range, so looking between 5.5 up to 7, although this is very much just a broad guide, as I have found 5 bands to be incredibly tolerant of different water parameters. They have gone into new tanks, they have gone into established tanks, and they've always just settled themselves in and done really well. Being on the small side though, they do need tank mates that aren't going to get big enough to eat them. And you do need to be just a little bit careful if you're thinking about adding 5 bands to an established community tank. Adult 5 bands are very peaceful species, they won't do any harm to any other fish. They'll happily live with barbs, danios, rasboras, all of your typical small community species. So long as it's not a shrimp, of course. I wouldn't keep them in with anything like rams or apistos, just because they are rather prone to stress, and these types of cichlids can become quite territorial, and being chased is something 5 bands aren't going to tolerate very well. but other peaceful fish species are absolutely fine. Baby five-pounds, on the other hand, are a completely different story, as they are a little bit like puppies. They love exploring all the time, they're into everything, they are full of mischief, and they seem to be constantly chewing on things, particularly other fish's fins. Young five-pounds are terrible fin nippers, and they are very fast and they like to go around in a gang, and so they can be really bad bullies of other fish who aren't fast enough to get out of their way. And they also don't seem to have very much of an awareness of their own size. They will happily pick on something as big as a full-grown adult betta, but any fish that has soft, tasty, flowing fins is going to be a target. And as it takes young five-pounds a good few months to grow out of that fin-nipping stage, then the other fish are going to be in for a very hard time, and I would go so far as to say that young five-pounds could actually be quite dangerous to something like endlers, for example. Normal fast fish though, they will be absolutely fine. Rasboras, danios, anything like that. They might have a few holes in their fins for a while, but they will grow back, and the five-pounds do grow out of this fin nipping stage. As soon as they reach maturity at about 6 months, their attention all goes on each other and they leave the other fish completely alone. And other than other fish's fins, five-pounds will happily eat all of your usual tropical fish diet. Pellets, flakes, bloodworm, daphnia, frozen or live feeds, five-pounds will eat the lot, and they do so with gusto. They are very keen feeders who will dash around trying to hoover up as much of the food as possible. Although they do seem to be a bit sensible about eating, I have never seen them eat so much that they ever look particularly fat. Breeding five-pounds is a lot like many of the other barb species. You're going to want to separate the males and females away from each other and fatten the females up on a nice high-protein diet in a small tank to themselves that's got a nice low pH between about 5 and 6. Then you can introduce the males in, and they should spawn the following morning in any moss or spawning mob that you've provided for them. Once they have spawned, you will need to remove the adults so that they don't consume their own eggs and young, and then raise the fry in the spawning tank. And then you get to have the joy of having baby five-pounds around the place all over again. Overall, five-pounds are a very peaceful and easy to keep species once you've got them past that adolescent nippy phase. As adults, they are robust and tolerant of changing water parameters, and so long as they have plenty of space and places where they can hide, then they are active and entertaining. Just don't expect shrimp to thrive in the same tank as them. Anywho though, I hope you've enjoyed this little video. Happy fish keeping everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye!